Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back. It's 8:33, and this one's one I've been looking forward to for quite a while now. On the phone, we have the authentic illusionist, Jay Owenhouse. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
It's a cold and chilly day here, but I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. You're going to be over at Camplex doing the Dare to Believe show, and I've been, if you'd been here at the studio, you'd know I've been talking about this nonstop all week. Why don't we talk a little bit about your background first before we talk about the show? First off, you're an illusionist. You do a huge stage show. I imagine that's not how you got started in magic, though, is it?
Well, no. I mean, I got interested in magic, believe it or not, when I was 4 years old. I was at my sister's birthday party, and a magician was performing, and that was the first time I'd ever seen a magician, and it really kind of sparked my interest in magic, and so I just kind of stayed interested in it. And then, of course, back then that was before the internet, so if you wanted to pursue a hobby, you really had to go to the library to learn more about it. So when I was in elementary school, I started to read books on magic and just began to learn that way. And then when I was in high school, I don't know, a lot of folks probably won't remember who this is, but the biggest magician at the time was Doug Henning, and he'd done a couple shows on Broadway, and he was kind of the unusual kind of hippie style magician that kind of single-handedly, I think, brought magic back on TV. And so I had the chance to work with him a little bit, and then I was kind of off and running. And then I got out of high school and went and decided to go to college to get a degree in psychology. And then when I got out of college, I decided to pursue the art full time.
Well, and I would imagine a psychology degree would probably be. I mean, as far as college degrees go, I imagine that would be the one that might translate the best to someone, especially in your line of show business, where everything you do is all about keeping the imagination of the audience alive.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it helps me understand, I guess, how the mind perceives and processes things. And of course, in the art of magic, you're dealing with perception and misdirection, and so it was helpful, and it's actually helped with one of my other passions too, which is I've always loved animals and sort of the behavioral aspect of behavior modification. Psychology really has helped in working with animals as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So and this, I'm sure you probably get this question every time. How did you end up working with tigers?
Well, it's kind of funny because, again, growing up, my parents had a big picture of a Bengal tiger over the fireplace. And to this day, I've asked them, and they're not really sure why they bought that painting, other than I think just the colors happened to match their decor, because they weren't really interested in tigers. But I would sit and look at that picture over the fireplace every day growing up, and it really just kind of sparked an interest in me in tigers, and I just kind of developed a passion for tigers. And I had a chance, again, after high school to work for a year with Rick Lassie, who's probably one of the most famous tiger trainers, and then I was fortunate, with his help, able to adopt my first tiger shortly thereafter. So I've raised and trained tigers for 25 years, and it's just been a very rewarding experience, not only to raise them and to work with them every day, but just to share them with our audiences, because I think there's something fascinating, I think, about seeing a tiger close up and seeing it in more of an intimate setting like a theater than than in a zoo,
Well, and I think especially for illusionist and magic acts that use tigers, I imagine that adds an element of maybe a little bit of unpredictability, and it just adds a little bit more grandeur. I mean, we don't get a whole lot of tigers here in Gillette, Wyoming. So I mean, and you'll see once you get into the theater, the theater is such an intimate theater. Everybody's going to be right on top of you there. You're going to see, you're going to be right there with a couple of tigers, which is just an amazing thing.
Yeah, it really is, and of course, it's safe, so people don't have to worry about that. But it will be a very special evening, just being able to be that close to them and see them interact. So,
and of course, now you've done touring all over the world. I mean, you've been to you've done tours in China and Japan. You've been on TV. I mean, this is definitely a world-class act. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the theme of the act and what it's all about?
Well, the show, I kind of see the show as really a metaphor to inspire people to believe in their own dreams and passions. It's interesting, as a child, or if a person can remember being a child or even raising children, it's always fascinating that, children have this natural sense of wonder when they're young. And I think as we get older, we tend to get more, a little more cynical and less in tune to dreaming. And it's unfortunate that we lose that as people, because I think it's one of the most endearing things about children is just their capacity for wonder and their imaginations. And so we really wanted to put together a show that, one, would really help inspire people to get in touch with that feeling of wonder again. And then the show is really also about the three things that I really love, which, one is the art of illusion. Second is my family. So my family is in the show, my four kids. And what's fun about that is they all have their own kind of lives during the week, and then we come together on the weekends and do this show. So my oldest son, John, is 25. He's finishing a degree in financial engineering. My next oldest son, Peter, is 23, and he's a pilot. He's actually a flight instructor. And then my daughter, Juliana, 20, works for me full-time, and then my youngest daughter, Christina, is 11. She's in 5th grade. But they're all in the show, and so that's a lot of fun for me, and I think it's fun for people to see a family work together. And then lastly, the show is really about kind of my passion for animals, and so we always try to feature animals in the show, and we're excited that we have a tiger sanctuary where we not only raise tigers, but we also try to help educate people on the vanishing plight of the tiger, kind of no pun intended, but a lot of people don't realize, there was 100,000 tigers in the wild in 1900, and today there are actually less than 3,000 tigers in the wild.
So those, and I will say that is a message that will resonate here in Wyoming. We take our wildlife conservancy very seriously. So I think that's a nice touch to it. The tigers obviously being part of the show, but it's almost like they're part of the family too.
Oh yeah, they are. In fact, we raised the two that I'm bringing are actually twins. They're 4 years old. They're both females. But what's interesting is one is white and the other one is orange. And sometimes people ask me, well, how can one be white and one be orange, and they're twins? Well, both their parents were white, but what a lot of people don't realize is that when two white tigers have a cub, 80% of them will still be orange, and only 20% of them will carry that white zygote gene. So that's one of the reasons why the whites are so rare. But we raised these two in our house until they're about 6 months old, and then once they got over 100 pounds, and we moved them out to their sanctuary.
Yeah. So I guess the white is the recessive gene, then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people think that it's actually like, it's an albino. It's really not. It's just a recessive gene that causes the white color and the blue eyes.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like a person having red hair or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That is just fascinating, and I don't want you to spoil the show for anyone, but could you just give us a little bit of an idea of maybe some of the sorts of illusions that we'll get to see tomorrow night?
You bet. It's really a mixture between a lot of different kinds of magic. This show this year is kind of my favorite show because I've put kind of my favorite things back in the show over the years. So it'll be some close-up, intimate magic in the audience, which is always fun, and then large-scale illusions, involving people and animals. And then I'm also going to make someone from the audience. I'm going to saw them in half, which is, it's a lot more fun to see someone from the audience sawed in half than an assistant sawed in half. And then I'm going to recreate one of Houdini's greatest escapes. I try to do that every show. And the one I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm kind of keeping a secret, but it'll be very exciting, and I know people will love it.
Well, and of course, like I said, I don't want you to spoil any surprises, but I'm telling you, I do love a good illusionist show, and this is definitely something I've been looking forward to, and I know I've been hearing around town. This is going to be a pretty hot ticket, and again, and if you want tickets for this, you might want to get them beforehand. cam-plex.com or visit the box office. It's tomorrow night over at the Camplex Heritage Theater, 7 p.m. We're talking with Jay Owenhouse, the authentic illusionist. The show is called Dare to Believe. And before we wrap things up, I'll just ask you this question. Now, you mentioned you got to work with Doug Hennig a little bit, and I'll date myself. I do remember him. I remember seeing him on TV. He was on TV almost every week when I was a kid. If you had to pick one major influence, who would it be?
Well, that's a tough question because there's probably three.
Okay, well, I'll give you three.
Four.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you all those.
First, Doug Henning, as we discussed, because like you, I saw him on TV when I was a kid. I had the chance to work with him a little bit, and I think that Doug Henning was really gifted in helping people really connect with magic on that level of wonder. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing about the art of illusion is not somebody, not a magician saying, look how smart I am, I know how to do these things, but rather really more like being a tour guide and saying, look, there's a lot of things in the world we don't understand, and really kind of inspiring people to have that sense of wonder. I would say that the second would be Harry Houdini, of course, because I think Harry Houdini is just a fascinating person. And if you look at how he really brought magic to this level of notoriety in a time when there wasn't a lot of media outlets. I mean, it was really before radio, before TV. There was newspaper, and yet he was known throughout the world for his escapes and his illusions. And then, Siegfried and Roy, of course, what they did with animals was amazing. And then, David Copperfield. I mean, David Copperfield has probably done more in the 20th century to move magic forward and create just a general interest in people realizing that it can be a great form of entertainment. And that's probably the thing that there's an old adage that P.T. Barnum used to say that every person in their lifetime should experience, one great circus and one great magic show. And so I guess our satisfaction comes from hoping that we do that as far as the magic show.
Well, and I will say it's a very it's a very personal art because, I mean, each person is going to see things a little bit differently. You're kind of speaking, I mean, tomorrow night in that theater, you'll be speaking to 900 different people in a little bit different way for each one. It really is an amazing art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us again. We're talking with Jay Owenhouse, the authentic illusionist. Dare to Believe, the show tomorrow night over at Camplex Heritage Theater, 7 p.m., cam-plex.com for tickets. Thank you so much for joining us, and I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.
Hey, thank you. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. And on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. News Talk 1270, KIML.
Have a fundraiser coming up? Charity event? New organization? Email Don Carpenter at basonsradio.com to find out how the show can help. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.